Hey. Oh. Well, I just decided it was time to do a live stream. I know I'm doing one tomorrow. How y'all doing? For the full moon in Pisces, full moon eclipse in Pisces. But I just thought, oh, I got my World Tribune in the mail today, and I just couldn't resist. I just feel ready to put myself out there. Okay, what can I say? Um, I'm still getting used to all of this. I'm just I have to push some buttons here. I have to do some disclaimers here. Uh, Fair use. Okay. Um, and I just want to make clear that I do believe that Aiden Strauss, good old Aiden Strauss, I really like him. He's the general director over at SGI-USA. I don't know. I think he's been waiting for me to do this. I've been talking about doing this for a long time, commenting on SGI publications, and it just hasn't felt right until now. Until now. I don't know why I waited so long, but my father, SGI President Daisaku Ikeda Sensei, he passed away almost a year ago, and it was such a shock for me. I really, really had envisioned him, me reuniting with him one day soon, and I was really sad that he passed away. But I know he wants me to put myself out there. I was always hidden away in the background as a little girl, his daughter, and it's time for me to be known because nobody has known about me. I helped co-plan in every detail the SGI back in 1974 when I was an 8-year-old girl. I'm also known as the Dragon King's daughter, not only the Zodiac Killer's daughter, the Dragon King's daughter, and I'm not referring to President Daisaku Ikeda. I grew up with Dennis Wayne Elliott, who was the genetic son of Nichiren, High Priest Nichiren of Nichiren Shoshu, and he was the Zodiac Killer, and he died in his infamy, but nobody knew it was him, and that was the deal. He had a contract with our government, the U.S. government, and in exchange, there was a deal made when I was a baby, in exchange for him paying me most of his money, I guess it was. I don't even know the details. They were going to protect his identity for the rest of his life, and he died in 2020. And there's this guy, his name, I call him Jay Foy. His name is Jeremy Foy, who's come out of nowhere. I guess he's 35. He acts like he's 21, and he's so sure that his grandpa is the Zodiac Killer. And, he wasn't even there, and his family never told him anything. Just all of a sudden, I guess somebody pointed out that his grandpa was in the media for years the members of the public wondered if he was involved or something. He was a police officer in Vallejo, and Jeremy he never even he was doing dating ramps on he was ranting about dating different dates. He was just making up stories on TikTok, and then one day he does a 180 and starts talking about the Zodiac being his grandpa, and I don't think he's ever gotten as much attention in his whole life, and I just kind of feel like he kind of is the segue to me, and at least I hope, because I hope my life begins sometime soon, and maybe I just have to start it myself. And I guess that's what everybody's been waiting for, is for me to just start it myself. Here I am. I don't have a penny to my name. I'm barely able to keep these lights on. My husband and I, my husband is Dean Wayne Boyd, not Dennis Wayne Elliott or David Wayne Craig. Dean Wayne Boyd is my husband here in Augusta, Georgia. We've been married 10 years as of just the other day, September 5th, 2024. Very proud. And that's a milestone, don't you think? I love him to death. And I don't know, that wasn't a good choice of words, but you know what I mean. We've been through so much, and I can't wait until we can have a good life. You know, Dean has been by my side. I've been by his side, and we've gone through so much together, and I would really like to have a good life, you know, us together to have a good life one day soon. All right, well, let's get started. Let's get studying. You know, Nichiren Buddhism. For people who don't know anything about it, you know, there are different organizations that consider themselves Nichiren Buddhist, but I would say the primary organization in America is the SGI-USA. They are derived from the original organization in Japan called the Soka Gakkai. The Soka Gakkai came into existence. You know, I don't have all these figures on the top of my mind, but the first president of the Soka Gakkai was Sensaburo Makaguchi, and it was after World War I that he was like done away with in jail. He was deprived of nourishment, and he died in jail. It was very sad. And he was the mentor of Josei Toda, who was the second president of the Soka Gakkai. And you know, after, I guess it was World War II. I don't know if I said World War I. It was World War II. And, you know, when Josei Toda found out that his mentor, you know, had passed away in jail, he was determined to, you know, share what his mentor taught with the world and make this philosophy and way of life and religion. It's really a way of life, let's be honest. But, you know, since people don't understand things, it is a religion. You know, he wanted the world to know about this form of Buddhism because it's the truth. It is actually the truth of Buddhism. There are other forms. And, you know, Shakyamuni Buddha, the first historical Buddha, he taught many forms. He taught different versions of the truth throughout his lifetime. And towards the end of his lifetime, he culminated it into a complete teaching called the Lotus Sutra. And the reason he taught many other versions was because he had many different audiences, and their capacity, you know, was at differing levels, and he had to adjust his message to each audience he spoke to. And, you know, when he felt like they were ready, you know, he finally told everybody, okay, this is the full and complete teaching that I have to offer, and, you know, throw away all the other teachings and just like keep this one. You know, this was the Lotus Sutra was the only teaching that he intended to pass along to posterity. And unfortunately, I don't know, I'm sure it was part of the plan, but most people don't know what Buddhism is. They just think it's the Dalai Lama. And by the way, he is not the legal Dalai Lama, but you know, he just kind of like tells you to practice whatever you were born into anyway, I think. Just tells you to be a good person, right? He doesn't really have any specific teachings. I know that's Tibetan Buddhism that he practices. I don't know. I don't study him. And this is what I study. I study Nichiren Buddhism. It is the truth. It is the whole and complete truth. And yes, it is not the oldest form of Buddhism. There are lots of other Buddhisms that emerged before it, but it is the truth about Buddhism. And actually, it was being practiced long before Buddhism was even a thing. It was a practice. This is the way I was taught. Okay, I was taught top secret things and that are not made public. Jesus, he chanted. Okay, he chanted the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, and I can't explain to you why I can't chant those words. I wish I could. I'll go into that, at another time during another live stream. But for now, just understand I don't chant these words, and I am not officially a member of SGI, an SGI member anymore. I had to separate from the SGI. Sadly, I mean, it was the last thing I ever wanted to do. I had to take my Gohanzon down. I had to take my altar apart. I cannot chant like ordinary Buddhists. I wish I could. And even Nichiren Daishonin, who is the supposed founder of Nichiren Buddhism, he chanted, right? But he's not a real person. I know he's in Japanese history. I know the whole story. I was born into this practice. I'm the first all-American fortune baby, born on October 21st, 1965. Both my parents chanted secretly. Both my parents chanted secretly. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, never missed one gongyo, and was also a fortune baby, which I know is pretty. Nobody in SGI has ever heard of this. It's all top secret. Of course, the true history, the truth would be top secret because I'm still top secret. You've never heard of me, right? Because I'm top secret. I'm about to be declassified. I'm trying to help along the process by doing this live stream, by trying to put myself out there more. I used to be a 24/7 caregiver for an elderly woman who just passed away, and it was a great challenge to be able to put myself out there while working 24/7. I was doing the work of I guess it's like 8 people or something like that. But so my time is obviously freed up quite a bit, but I'm just overwhelmed with all the projects that are put on my plate at all times. I have 2 dogs, 4 cats, a husband who requires a lot of assistance. We've had in the family, I've experienced 5 deaths in my family in the last 2 years, and more when you include all the friends and people we've known. It's just been overwhelming, and here I am. Okay, so let's begin studying. I think that's a good overview for now. Let me, I'm going to just stop this now, okay? So you don't have to look at it anymore, but you got the message, right? Okay, so I have not pre-read this or anything. Let me see which, oops. Here we are. I'm on the page now. You can still see it, right? Yes. Okay. I'm not used to doing this. So, okay. So here's our World Tribune. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in this reading format and understand that I have a very important role to play in the organization that I am no longer a member of. I've been kept secret, and I'm just going to go ahead and go for it. And just understand that this is my commentary. This is my organization. Do you see this symbol here? This logo. I created that on my what is it called? That little stenograph, is that what it's called? Or spirograph. Remember those in the 1970s? I had one when I was a kid, and that I created that logo. And let me go back to so I can see my face. There I am. And I don't know if you can see my little logo up. Wait, wrong way. It's hard because everything's opposite. Would it be this way? Okay, there. This little Gerber baby. That's me. I'm the Gerber baby, okay? And I'm also the copper tone girl. I had that in my little intro, right? They were me. And guess who my artist is? It's Gary Murray of the SGI USA. He's big leader in LBS. He's one of the what is it called? LB LB one of those leaders. Let me I have to look it up. Wait. Hold on just a minute. L I'm having such a hard time. Okay, it's LGBTQ, right? LGBTQ. I forgive me. I know. I'm showing my age. I know. I'm born October 21st, 1965, and I'm not a member of that group, so and I'm in Georgia, and I just don't keep up with it. I apologize. I don't mean anyone any offense. Anyway, LBG I have to go back to my little web page to get it right. L where is it? LGBTQ. I guess I have to have that handy to say it right. Um yeah, Gary's a leader for that part of our organization, and of course he's an artist. He's the arts and culture department. He's always been a leader there. Anyway, he's the guy who sketched me. He was very young. It was long before he was ever a Buddhist. Daddy. I won't get into who Daddy is. It's just I'm gonna have to tell you my stories over time. It's just too much at one sitting. But we're here to study, so let's do that. Let me go back to the page here where I was. Okay, here we go. So let me just double check if it's showing up right. It is. Okay. So the front page, here's my little issue here. It says, this was the moment in which the Buddhism of the sun broke through the profound darkness of fundamental delusion to illuminate the earth with its brilliance. And that's from Ikeda Sensei, that's my father. Okay. And that's a quote of his, and it's on page 2 to 3. And we're going to be reading that next. And then what this is the feature article for the happiness of all people eternally with our mentor, a report on the SGI North America Study Conference. Shishiro Harada, SGI Study Department Leader, Weston, Florida. Okay, so in Western Florida, that's where the FNCC is. That is where all the conferences. It's really worldwide. Everybody comes from all over the world to go there. It's like it's the west coast of Florida, I believe. And I've been there. I used to live around there in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. And Fort Lauderdale is on one coast, the east coast, and then the other side is western Florida and the FNCC. And I've been there. I've gone to a conference there one time, and it was such a beautiful experience, and I recommend anyone to make time out and get your funds together and go. It's always a really profound experience, and that was when I chanted. I don't chant today, so I can't go because I can't. I mean, I guess I could just sit there while everybody chanted, I guess. But I know that people in the SGI are very judgmental, and they wouldn't understand until I was introduced. Nobody's introduced me. Nobody can, because I'm top secret. I have to introduce myself and look like a fool. But what else am I going to do? I mean, I'm just sitting here in Augusta, Georgia, twiddling my thumbs. I got to do something. So this is what I'm doing. So Western Florida. Quote, if the life of the Buddha is eternal, then why must the Buddha die? Interesting question. SGI study department leader Shichiro Harada posed this question. By passing away, okay, I'm trying to find where it continues. I see this. Okay, I guess that's the next sentence there. By passing away, the Buddha arouses in the people the fundamental spirit of faith to seek the Buddha and the law. The Buddha leads living beings to enlightenment by awakening them in a by awakening in them a seeking spirit and desire to carry out faith, helping them reveal an eternal and vast state of life within. Mr. Harada presented this in his lecture on life and death, one of 4 topics studied at the Florida Nature and Culture Center. That's what I was referring to, FNCC, and that's what it stands for, Florida Nature and Culture Center. And this was from August 23rd to the 26th, which was not that long ago. 185 representative leaders from the SGI-USA and SGI Canada gathered for the SGI North America Study Conference, led by Mr. Harada. It was the first study conference to be held at the FNCC since 2019. In an exciting kickoff to the weekend, a young woman received the Gohanzan during the morning session on August 24th, the 77th anniversary of Ikeda Sensei joining the Sokogakai. Okay, so the Gohanzan, for those who don't know, that is the scroll that Nichiren Buddhists chant to. It's written in kind of calligraphy, but it's ancient writing. I know that everybody says that it's Chinese lettering, but it really isn't. It's an ancient writing, which is where Chinese came from. And that's why Chinese people can't read the Gohanzan, because it's the language that created Chinese. It's not actually Chinese. I was taught how to inscribe a Gohanzan when I was a child, and the Gohanzan that is credited to my grandpa Nichiren, the 67th high priestess of Nichiren Shoshu. I actually was the real successor of the 66th high priest Nitatsu, but because I was a little girl in America, my grandpa unilaterally decided that he would stand in for me, and he became the 67th high priestess, I like to call him. He has passed away years ago, actually. Was it? I don't even remember. I didn't even keep track of it. For some reason, 2013 comes to mind, but I think it was after that. I don't know. Anyway, and I'll look it up for you. Maybe tell you next time if you watch me again. Anyway, it's the Gohanzan is what Nichiren Buddhists chant to. When they chant, they focus on it's actually considered a mandala, an object of worship, and they unlock it. They like trigger enlightenment when they unite with it visually. You know, they're focusing on the scroll. It's in a box called a butsudan. And what happens when when you stare at something, or you stare at your image in the mirror, how you kind of unlock something, and the shape of your face distorts and changes. Have you ever had that happen to you, where you stare at something and you stare so long that the shape of it changes, or the vision, it transforms the image. Have you ever had that experience? Maybe you haven't. I don't know. But when you focus on the writing of a scroll, I mean, you kind of unlock, at least the Gohanzan, I'll say, there's like an unlocking that happens visually. At least that's my experience. Now, most Nichiren Buddhists might not have that experience. I'm just explaining it from from what I've experienced. But it becomes three-dimensional. I know most Nichiren Buddhists haven't had that experience chanting to the Gohonzon, but it literally does if you focus and you chant long enough. And it's kind of like you open up your life and your enlightenment, and your life kind of shows you what you need to look at, what you need to examine, what you need to focus on. And it just unlocks a lot of things in your mind, and things occur to you, and you get answers you never knew you were looking for. It's a really profound thing, chanting to the Gohonzon. And I wish I could chant to the Gohonzon myself. I really do. I was addicted to chanting to the Gohonzon. It's very addictive. For me, it is like a drug that I shouldn't be taking, but for others, it enables them to open the door to their life, to their enlightenment. It transforms their life. And I highly recommend everyone watching this to investigate chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant by going to SGI.org or SGI-USA.org, or you could say .com. I think either would work. Buddhability is a great podcast that explains things for, it's really geared towards young people and new members. I guess it's Buddhist Solutions to some kind of problems is another podcast that the SGI-USA has put together. They're all good. I haven't read the publications or listened to the podcasts a lot in recent times, but really, you really should. I highly recommend it. Okay, so that's what a Gohonzon is, and every Nichiren Buddhist chants to the Gohonzon. I mean, not every. You can chant without a Gohonzon, and many people do. I know that Nichiren Buddhists usually have issues with people chanting to Gohonzons that are not issued by SGI-USA, or, I know Nichiren Shoshu, that's the temple. Nichiren Shoshu and the SGI used to be one organization, and they had a very painful split in the early 90s, which I witnessed personally. I was an active member at that time. And as soon as I filed for divorce in Santa Monica on, I guess it was November 27th, 1990, was it? Let's see, I'm trying to remember when my divorce went through. I think it was 91. It didn't go through until 92, okay, my divorce. But I filed on the 27th of November, 1991, if I'm not mistaken. And then as soon as the sun rose in Japan, my grandpa Nichiren excommunicated the entire SGI throughout the world. And it was such a shock and so ridiculous. And he didn't really understand that he was like cutting off his own foot. And yeah, so that's what happened when I filed for divorce. Okay. The entire wide organization of the SGI was separated from Nichiren Shoshu, and it was a liberation. It was good. It's just Nichiren Shoshu is like this little insignificant tribe of priests trying to, keep going with their members, and they think they're the original, because they're the priests, right? And Nichiren Daishonin was a priest, right? But it's that's not what Nichiren Buddhism is about. It's about people. It's about the heart. It has nothing to do with being a priest or It doesn't have anything to do with authoritarianism, which is what the priesthood is all about. Like, they think they are the elite. They think they are above the people, and that the laity needs to serve them because they are, I don't know, I guess the modern day Nichiren of their time. I don't know what they think. It's ridiculous what they think. It's Japanese culture. It's like a tradition in Japanese culture for priests to think like that. And, it's only the elite families of Japanese society who send their little boys to become priests at age like 12, and they're horribly abused, and it's a horrible thing. And the girls, they're sent off to be geisha, and what happens to them, and their virginity is sold when they're children. It's a horrible part of Japanese culture, to be honest, and it has nothing to do with what Nichiren Buddhism is about. Okay, I had to pick something off the floor there. My dog, or maybe a kitty, knocked it over, and I had to move that. All right, so let's continue studying. I don't know where I was. And I'm not going to continue on and read this whole publication. I'm just going to start. I'm just starting. This is totally imperfect. It's totally impromptu. I hope you don't mind. Okay. So we were talking about the Gohanzan, I believe, and I got into that whole story about Gohanzans. So in an exciting kickoff, I'm starting right here to the weekend, right here. So see, if I do that, you can see the arrow, huh? In an exciting kickoff to the weekend, a young woman received the Gohanzan during the morning session on August 24, the 77th anniversary of Ikeda Sensei. That's my father, President Daisaku Ikeda. I'm the other president, by the way, just letting you know. I don't think I mentioned that. I was the one that did all the work behind the scenes in Old Greenwich, Connecticut. And then my father, Daisaku Ikeda, went to Guam, and everybody nominated him to be the president. So by default, I became the other SGI president, and, nobody knows who I am. And apparently, he's still the SGI president because there's nobody else in the SGI publications. He's still going after death. But I'm alive, okay? Hi. I'm living, and where's my living Buddhism? I am living Buddhism, okay? I'm not dead. I'm alive. Okay. And, I really am sad that my father died. I didn't want him to die. And I'm sorry, I have a long story with many fathers that we won't get into right here. I really wanted all of them to live. I didn't want any of them to die. And there is one that still lives, and he is my true daddy. And I look forward to being reunited with him one day soon. But okay, but the rest are dead. And I guess there's a reason for that, right? I had only one daddy who was like my mommy also. And he is the reason I exist today. He taught me everything I know. All right. I will not divert from the words any longer. Let's continue. So Ikeda Sensei. So it was this woman, a young woman, received the Gohanzan during the morning session on August 24, the 77th anniversary of Ikeda Sensei joining the Sokogakai. She was among the hundreds who had joined the SGI-USA's Buddhist community during its summer of Shakabuku. Shakabuku, that means introducing people to Nichiren Buddhism. It's a Japanese term, the Japanese think they own Nichiren Buddhism, but they don't. And, I think gradually they're understanding they don't, because if they do, we're never going to have world peace throughout the world. We'll just have world peace in Japan, and that's not the whole world. Okay. All right. Over the 4-day conference, Mr. Harada presented on key themes of faith, the unity of Many embody one in mind and the oneness of mentor and disciple. That's lecture 1. Planting seeds, lecture 2. And joy in both life and death, lecture 3, with Q&A sessions interspersed throughout. That sounds very interesting. Quote, complex topics were explained in simple terms without losing Buddhism's profundity, said Ijai Toda. His last name is Toda. Is he related to Jose Toda, the second president of the Sokogoka? I wonder. I'm sure he's very proud. He has that same last name. A young men's division leader from Portland, Oregon, of all places. Wow, I didn't know there were any Todas in Portland, Oregon. By the way, the daddy I speak of, I don't want to get into it. I'll get into it later. Okay, so he's from Portland, Oregon. Quote, I learned how I can study with the young men's division leaders in my organization, always going back to sensei's guidance and the Gosho. Okay, so sensei is Daisaku Ikeda, my father, the guy that everybody credits with being the SGI president. Towards the end of his life, I think he insisted on being called Ikeda Sensei because, I'm going to be honest here, and I hope nobody gets upset, he was trying to introduce me indirectly, like step aside so Claire could come in, but he was, I'm sorry, I hope that doesn't bother anyone, but that's what he was doing, okay? I know he was very sad that nobody knew who I was. I know he died being very sad about that, and it makes me cry. I'm very sad about it too, Sensei. Okay. All right, so the Gosho, okay, right here. See that? Right there. The Gosho. The Gosho is the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. And I'm trying to find one of my Goshos here. Here. The writings of Nichiren Daishonin. This is volume 1. There's 2 volumes. I have the other one over here. That's what the Gosho is. It's a Japanese term that it goes back to the old days when the Japanese thought that they were like the king of Nichiren Buddhism. They just thought they knew everything, and we had to say the Japanese terms because it was the same thing as like the priesthood. It's Japanese culture that is the problem, and the reason why Nichiren Buddhism was planted there in Japan was because it's a problem. That culture is a problem. I know it's a beautiful country and the people are beautiful. I mean, there are so many beautiful things about Japanese culture. There's a purity in Japanese culture, that, I don't know, the people have a certain childlike purity that's beautiful, but there are certain really bad things about the culture that people don't really talk about, and that's why Nichiren Buddhism was planted there. It didn't originate there, okay? Nichiren Buddhism, the practice of Nichiren Buddhism has been around for eternity. It was, Judaism rejected the chanting of those words and rejected the teachings because it wasn't according to their culture. Because it wasn't Hebrew, they just threw it away again and again. Jesus chanted, it's older than Buddhism itself. It is Buddhism. It's just that there was a time when Buddhism it was not yet introduced to the world. And before it was ever introduced to the world, the practice that is Nichiren Buddhism was in existence secretly. And, people like, I do believe that Shakyamuni Buddha also chanted before he ever expounded his teachings. And he, and of course, in the Lotus Sutra, which is what he expounded towards the end of his life, he talks about how he's not the first person who realized these truths that he taught, that he had a teacher in time without beginning, the beginningless past, who taught him everything, a mentor. And he was not the first Buddha. He spoke that. He said that in the Lotus Sutra, which is right here. Let's see. Yeah. These are not my first copies, because I've moved around and I've lost books and everything, but these are my current copies. And, we can go through all of these over time on this channel. I'd really enjoy doing that. Okay, so I guess we should continue on. I don't know what else I have to say, but that's what the Go show, I was talking about Japanese terms and, and why Nichiren Buddhism was planted in Japan, because it was the culture that really needed a dose of reality, a dose of truth. Okay, let's be honest. It's not because the culture was so advanced, it had made the cause to, that it was, Japanese culture is so opposed in many ways to Nichiren Buddhism. I just want that clear, because for so many years, these Japanese people in SGI, and, we're not even mentioning Nichiren Shoshu here, they just think their very limited view of life is what Buddhism is somehow. I don't know. It just seems like that authoritarianism that is so much a part of Japanese culture is what so many people in Japan think is Nichiren Buddhism, or that I don't know. It just seems like the Japanese think they have this elevated view of Nichiren Buddhism, and that we in America are the babies, and they have to guide us. This is the insinuation, and it's very insulting, because I feel like in America we have a much more natural understanding of what Nichiren Buddhism is, even though it wasn't planted on, our soil, because we weren't in existence, when, it was planted in a country. Okay. And of course, where they would choose would be the place they would want to see the most human revolution, as Josei Toda would say, right? He would pick the place where he wanted to see the most human revolution. Human revolution, what is that? Josei Toda invented the phrase. It is like a person's evolution, their transformation over time. I think of the Beatles song, "You Want a Revolution," right? I won't get into why the Beatles wrote about that, or sung about that, I should say, but just remember what I just said, okay, about the Beatles. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so this Toda guy from Portland, Oregon, is talking about how he learned, quote, "I learned how I can study with the young men's division leaders in my organization, always going back to sensei's guidance and the Go show." Okay, and that's what he says. And then this is the excerpt, I guess, that he's quoting. "The heritage of the ultimate law of life and death flows in the lives of those who strive for Kozen Rufu based on the path of mentor and disciple." I noticed that right here. Oops, right there. Trying to get this arrow to get big. There it is. Kozen Rufu, they used to put a little hyphen in there. I don't see a hyphen there. Is this something they've been doing lately? This is how long it's been since I've read these publications. I notice over time things shift a little bit. Are we omitting the hyphen in kosenrufu nowadays. That's a new one. Okay, this is how long it's been since I've read an SGI publication. They tend to stack up. I don't read them, and this is why this is good for me, because it really gets me to read, what I love to read. If only I would make the time for myself. I'd rather, make the time for you. Okay, and that's why we're doing this. Okay, or at least one of the reasons why. Okay, quote, "The heritage of the ultimate law of life is passed on to those who practice in the spirit of many in body, one in mind." Okay. In his first lecture, Mr. Harada presented on two key themes of faith: the unity of many in body, one in mind, and the oneness of mentor and disciple, based on chapters 8 and 9 of the Heritage of the Ultimate Law of Life, SGI President Ikeda's lecture series. So that is a one of the letters that Nichiren Daishonin wrote. It's in the Gosho, or the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. But, of course, SGI President Ikeda, he taught. He did a lot of dialoguing with world leaders, and did a lot of lectures and did a lot of teaching. And so this is SGI Ikeda's lecture series on that particular writing, chapters 8 and 9 of the Heritage of the Ultimate Law of Life. Now, I didn't know that it had chapters 8 and 9. I guess that must be like the book that they published in his lecture series, and that's 8 and 9 of that book. Okay. Here we go. We're over here. Nichiren Daishonin wrote, "The heritage of the ultimate law of life to his disciple Sarenbo." I guess Sarenbo. I guess I could have just started reading and I didn't have to explain, because they're explaining. Okay, so he wrote this letter to his disciple Sarenbo while exiled on Sado Island. Sarenbo, an educated former priest of the Tendai school, had asked Nichiren a question about the heritage of the ultimate law of life and death. He responded by describing the lineage of Buddhism passed down from the Buddha to all living beings. That's very important. That wording is very important. To all living beings, not just to the select few, not just to the priests, not just to the Japanese people, not just to SGI leaders, SGI-USA leaders. No, it's to all the people. Okay, that's what Nichiren Buddhism belongs to. It belongs to all the people. Buddhism is life, and all of us who breathe are alive, and there's nobody excluded. Okay. In the letter, Nichiren explains 3 criteria for living beings to inherit the ultimate law of life and death. 1, to have faith that the Buddha, the law, and living beings are entities of the mystic law, and to chant. Okay, read the words right here. Right here. Trying to get this. Okay, I'm not going to say the words. I cannot say the words. When I say those words, I negate myself. So I can't say them. All right, but you can read them right here. Okay, the ones right there. Wait. Okay, the dashes are between them. Oh, how interesting. I don't know if that's a typo, but they're putting the hyphens in different places than they used to. I don't know. Is this a typo? The second word used to be connected to the beginning right here. And then there was a hyphen right there after the O and before the R. That's the way it used to be. I'm thinking it's a typo. Oh, I see. Well, okay, so they couldn't fit it here at the end of the sentence, and so there's a hyphen there to continue the word. But then there's no hyphen after the H and the O and before the R and the E, right? There should be a hyphen there. It must be a typo, unless they're changing more they've changed more things. I don't know. So, okay. So, number one, to have faith that the Buddha, the law, and living beings are entities of the mystic law, and to chant the words with this conviction. And two, to sustain one's faith throughout one's life. And three, to practice faith based on the unity of many in body, one in mind. Okay. Mr. Harada focused on the third point. Okay. To practice faith based on the unity of many in body, one in mind. So he focused on the third point, introducing this passage from the Gosho, the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. I don't know why they don't just say, I mean, they used to, it seemed like the organization was trying very hard to use common words, not particular to one language or another. Like, gosho is a Japanese term, even though it's in American English there, it's a Japanese term. And really, they used to stress the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. They used to have abbreviations, so it didn't, they didn't have to spell it all out. And you could just look at the key and see what it stood for, but to say the Gosho, a lot of people don't know what the Gosho is anymore. I don't know why they're going. It seems like the organization goes back and forth. Like they go back in time and start doing things the old way, and then they try to bring it up to the modern day again. And I just wish they would be consistent and stick with what is better for people who don't know the lingo. Just somebody who picks up the paper and reads it. What's the Gosho? They just have to figure it out over time or ask someone. They don't know what the Gosho is. Okay. All disciples. Okay, so he focused on the third point, introducing this passage from the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. All disciples, I'm right here. All disciples and lay supporters of Nichiren should chant. Look, they did it again, but this time it's a typo because over here there was a different arrangement of hyphens, so it's a typo. Okay. So all disciples and lay supporters of Nichiren should chant the words with the spirit of many in body, but one in mind, transcending all differences among themselves to become as inseparable as fish and the water in which they swim. The spiritual bond is the basis for the universal transmission of the ultimate law of life and death. Herein lies the true goal of Nichiren's propagation. When you are so united, even the great desire for widespread propagation can be fulfilled. But if any of Nichiren's disciples disrupt the unity of many in body, but one in mind, they would be like warriors who destroy their own castle from within. That's from The Heritage of the Ultimate Law of Life, the writings of Nichiren Daishonin, Volume 1, page 217. Okay, I want to take a moment and speak on something here. I know the Japanese think that they are just so superior because their culture is so, you go to Japan and everybody fits in, everybody does things the same, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of peer pressure there. Like they're like little kids, everybody has to. I know it's different nowadays. It's probably better now because of the influence of America. But everybody in Japan, I'm talking about in modern history, they tend to, there's this pressure to fit in and you can't deviate. You can't, it's a very uniform kind of culture. It's a group culture. I know that anthropologists probably have terms to describe it. America, we're more independent and we pride ourselves on our unique differences, right? It's a culture that is really freed up from all that kind of pressure to fit in. I mean, there are still people who have the kind of personality where they don't want to stand out and they want to just fit in. And, there are certain families that put more pressure on their kids to be like that. I understand there's all kinds of people in America. I'm not saying everybody's uniform here. That's the beauty of this country. Everybody can kind of discover, or they have the opportunity if they have the right environment and choose to be who they or to discover who they truly are. In Japan, it's a much different situation. I know it's a beautiful culture. I know there are so many great things about Japan. I'm not knocking Japan. I hope, the Japanese don't hate me. Um, I just there's so many great things in their culture. It's just that pressure for them to all fit in and do things the same. And I mean, they even look a lot alike. I mean, have over time. I know it's different now. I mean, they've got people dyeing their hair all different colors now. And, America has really influenced their younger population. And I think it's a good thing, you know. I'm glad their younger population, it feels a little more freed up than it used to be. Um, that is not what the writings of Nichiren and Daishonin are referring to. I just want the Japanese to understand that. This the unity of many in body, one in mind. It's, that is a very superficial interpretation of that phrase, to think that, everybody should be one. Everybody should do things the way we've all agreed to do them. Many in body, one in mind. That's a very superficial understanding of that phrase. One in mind. The mind, it's really the heart. The heart is an extension of the mind. It's part of the mind. And it's the mind. I know in English we interpret the mind as being the brain. I don't know. In Japanese, Japanese is my first language. I spoke it like a native, and because my own mother, didn't speak to me in English. I'm all American. I'm the first all American fortune baby born in 1965 in America. But my mother didn't speak to me. My mother spoke only English. She was a Native American. Well, yeah, she was part Native American, actually. She was President Ikeda's daughter, and I am also President Ikeda's daughter. I know that sounds very strange, and when you listen to me talk and all the things I tell you, all this stuff is top secret. It's not, it's not public knowledge. And if something's top secret, there's a reason why it's top secret. Okay. They don't just make anything top secret. There's a reason. I mean, it's the stuff I talk about is really shocking and not your standard information. It's not something you've ever heard before. And why? Because it's top secret. Okay. But anyway, my mother never spoke to me in English. She didn't know Japanese. She didn't grow up with President Ikeda, of course. She grew up in America, and she only spoke English, American English, like everybody else, and here. And yeah, the only person who spoke to me was the guy I call my daddy. And yeah, that's why Japanese was it was not President Ikeda. Okay, it was somebody else that I'll get to one day soon. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That's my husband, Dean. He's giving me some water. Thank you, Dean. I appreciate it. I do have a dry throat. Thank you. All right. And, President Daisaku Ikeda was around me when I was a baby, growing up. He would come to my house on occasion, especially when I was a baby. The first Sokogokai meetings in America was in my house. We lived in Los Altos at that time. The back family room area, that's where we held our first meetings in America. Yeah, and I was a little baby, a little blonde baby. Just imagine, I don't know if I'm pointing in the right direction, but little, Gerber baby sitting in a chair. Everybody's in a circle or around the room. I don't know if it was exactly I think it was a circle. I remember it being a circle. And everybody, there's all these Japanese, young Japanese people, right? Women and men and President Ikeda, and there's a little blonde baby. That was me. And they didn't think I understood or anything, but oh yes, I did. I was speaking clearly in my native language of Japanese, even though I didn't live in Japan. I lived in America. I spoke clearly in my native language, in the native language of Japanese, when I was 6 months old. I spoke clearly. Daddy told me, you speak clearly at 8, you're 6 months old and you speak. And I remember this for myself. Okay. I'm not just remembering what my mom told me or somebody else told me. I remember this myself. Okay. I'm a savant. Okay. I was a child prodigy. I remember things better from my babyhood than I can remember my babyhood better than I can remember what I ate yesterday for lunch. I mean, I guess I can remember that, but you know what I mean? I remember my memory improves the longer it is ago from today. I remember my young my young child, I guess it's early childhood and babyhood. I remember being born. I remember all this stuff. It's amazing, and it's because I'm a savant that I'm able to do that. Okay. And I didn't always remember. Okay. It took decades to remember very much at all because I was seriously abused. With Nichiren being my grandpa and my father being the son of Nichiren, I was very seriously abused growing up. And, my mother abused me too. Um, I got it from both sides. Okay. Just want to be clear that just because Nichiren Buddhism was planted, it wasn't really born there, but it was planted in Japan, does not mean Japan is some enlightened place. Okay. And yes, there are more people chanting in Japan than anywhere on earth. This is true, but they are probably the culture that needed to chant the most. Okay. And I'm not saying that I know there are very many good people in Japan. There's a lot of purity in Japan, a lot of childlike beauty that is Japan. And there's the art and the creativity in Japan is awesome. I mean, I'm so impressed with Japan in so many ways, but there's a lot of darkness, and it goes back in history. I think Japan is probably better now than it was in history. It comes from, there's a lot of bad stuff in Japanese history, okay? And there's a reason why that country was selected, because it needed the most help, okay? So that culture, the people who think that, oh, Japanese culture is so advanced, it is not. We in America, it's America that has the potential. I mean, yeah, I admit there's a lot of corruption in America. I'm certainly not saying we're some kind of elite culture or anything like that. I'm just explaining to those Japanese people who think they're so elite and advanced. I want to correct them and remind them that it's America that has the potential that Japan never had. And, look at how long Japan has had Nichiren Buddhism. Where the hell is world peace? Okay. Where the hell is Kozen Rufu? Where is it? I don't see it. And how long has Nichiren Buddhism been in Japan? Over 750 years. Okay. So if Japanese culture was so advanced, in terms of enlightenment, we'll say, I mean, there are certain aspects, like their creativity is amazing. I mean, their calligraphy, they're just so tidy and neat, and they just have this beautiful purity. And there's a lot of great things. I admit it, but I'm talking about, in terms of empowerment, enlightenment. I think an enlightened culture would have created Kosen-Rufu all throughout the world, not just in Japan. And believe me, there's not Kosen-Rufu in Japan either. I mean, look at women in Japan. I'm horrified that women are so, I mean, I think it's better now, and that's only thanks to the influence of America. Okay, it is. But I'm horrified to see how passive women in Japan are and how dominant the men are. I mean, I just get so disgusted by Japanese businessmen, and I know not all Japanese businessmen are ignorant like that. I just had more than my fair share in my house abusing me, okay, over many years. And I guess I just have a personal issue with them, okay? And I get angry that women of the Japanese culture submit so easily to that bullshit. It makes me angry. Here in America, women are much, I would say we're not healthy completely. I mean, we're still disempowered. We still are kept down to some extent, but we're breaking free. I mean, of all the women in the world, we are the women who are the most empowered, and it's us who lead the way. And it's not like I feel elite in any way. I fought hard to get where I am. I'm talking about emotionally, mentally, in every way. I mean, I should be dead right now. Talk about, why does the Buddha die? I don't die. Thank God I don't die. Thank the Buddha. Thank the universe. Because I would not be here to be able to tell my story today if I died. Believe me, my father was a serial killer. My mother was a serial killer, and they chanted. Okay. Even devils can become enlightened. Okay. That's what Nichiren Buddhist teaches. It's not an evil thing. It's just that the true test of a philosophy, the true test of a religion, of a way of life can even, the true test is, can devils become enlightened? Can women become enlightened? Can children become enlightened? That's the true test. And it's only the Lotus Sutra that teaches that even devils can become enlightened. Okay. Even children can become enlightened. Even women can become enlightened. Prior to the Lotus Sutra, and since, I mean, I'm talking ancient texts though. Nowhere does it say that even women can become enlightened. And really, we are the first ones to become enlightened. Let's be honest. We're far more advanced than men. That's been proven by science, that women we have our brains are our two hemispheres connected, right? And men, the two hemispheres are not quite as well connected. And that's why women are better with language. We're just better thinkers. We're just more intelligent. And the IQ that is passed on to children are passed along through the woman, through the mother, not the man. He passes along EQ. And yes, that Daddy always used to tell me that EQ is more important than IQ. But, since men think they're so smart, I mean, I'm not saying all men, but in history, men just think they're so much more advanced than everyone in existence, especially women. I just want to emphasize that, it's only through the mother that IQ is passed along. It's not through the father. Yeah, I'm getting upset. I went through a lot in this organization, and I guess I'm just trying to set the record straight, okay? All right, let's continue. I want to finish this article and then I'm going to stop today. Okay. All right. It's going to take a long time. I'm going to have to do this every day, read one article a day, and not talk so much about the history or my history, because we'll never get through all of these articles otherwise. Okay, so I just wanted to emphasize that this many in body, one in mind is not like Japan, like how everybody's the same. It's better now. I know it used to be worse. But, this whole, I just kind of get the feeling like Mr. Harada might think that. And that's why he's emphasizing it. Like, you Americans, you need to be more like Japan. Like, you need to all get together and do things one way. And everybody needs to not deviate, and then we'll have Kosen Rufu like we have in Japan. I kind of get that vibe from him right now. Maybe it's just my vibe. Maybe it's just my issue with Japanese men. I don't know. Okay. And it's not all Japanese men. I mean, Daisaku Ikeda, he was not a typical Japanese man. I love him. He was different. And he wasn't even born in Japan. He was born in America, in Iowa. My grandma gave birth to him. Okay. And then he was shipped off to Japan. Yeah. But that's another story, which I'm alluding to right now. But okay, I'm not talking about Daisaku Ikeda. He was like a different breed. He wasn't typical Japanese. He fit into typical Japanese culture, sure, and he tolerated a lot. And I used to always be really annoyed how he tolerated that bullshit so much. He just went with the status quo so much in a lot of ways for the sake of Kozen Rufu. He was trying to it was different over there than here. He wasn't free to express himself like I am. And I think he probably admired that I had the freedom I have, that he, not that I could do anything with it, but he wasn't free. He wasn't free to speak. He couldn't speak freely. He couldn't, he had to be very careful, at least I don't have to be. All right. So I've said my piece, right, about that. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Okay, referring to this passage, I'm right here. I just want to point it out. I'm right here. Referring to this passage, Mr. Harada emphasized that the heritage is only passed on to those who practice with the spirit of many in body, one in mind, quote unquote. People who only pray for their own enlightenment cannot inherit the heritage of the mystic law. I agree with that. I agree. It's about bodhisattva. You can't become a Buddha, but you have to become a bodhisattva before you can become a Buddha. That's why, there's 10 worlds in Nichiren Buddhism, okay? And, the higher worlds, there's learning, realization, bodhisattva, and then there's Buddhahood. And that's the goal for everyone, Buddhahood. But within all the 10 worlds are all the other 10 worlds, so you're not stuck, you're not stuck in hell, for example. There's always Buddhahood. There is Buddhahood in hell. There can be. I mean, if you're just open to it, if you just, you're never trapped in Nichiren Buddhism. It's a beautiful, beautiful way of understanding life. You're never down and out without any options. You never are. There's always a way out. And you can, you don't have to go up the ladder like hell. What is it? Hunger, anger. I don't know. We'll go over the 10 worlds a different time. You can go straight to Buddhahood from hell. You don't have to okay, I'm going to walk up the ladder. It's not linear at all. And that's the beauty of Nichiren Buddhism. You can be down and out, and then boom, you realize the truth, and you're enlightened in the moment. Or there are different states of life, and everybody has a predominant state of life. The Buddha gets angry. The Buddha goes through hell. I mean, the Buddha is a human being. All of us experience all the full spectrum, hopefully, of human emotion, unless we're dead. And, even Buddhas get upset. Even Buddhas get sad. Even Buddhas, like, just want to roll over and die sometimes. But somehow they find a way out, and a Buddha's predominant world view or life state, is Buddhahood. But that doesn't mean they don't experience all the different 10 worlds, throughout their day. They're human, and every world is Buddhahood. Don't forget that. We're not robotons, robots. We're human beings. And thank goodness. Who wants to be a robot? All right. But my point is, people forget that, okay, you can get, like, they taught, I want to go over this before we read on. Learning and realization, those are the two worlds before bodhisattvahood. Now, let me explain bodhisattvahood. Bodhisattvahood is when you put others before yourself. I mean, I remember when I was like a young little Buddhist in the 90s, we used to talk about Mother Teresa. And by the way, she used to chant, by the way. Just want you to know, secretly. And she taught her nuns to chant. Her order of nuns, they chant secretly. Just letting you know. It's not just SGI who chants. Okay, there are many organizations who secretly chant. All right. Anyway, Mother Teresa, she's like the epitome of a bodhisattva. She has no care for herself. She only cares about the children in Calcutta, right? Like, sacrificing herself for others. That is what bodhisattvahood is. And the people in learning and realization, they get stuck there. That's okay. So the 10th world is Buddhahood. Okay, let's be clear. That's what we all aim for. Okay, it's a Buddhahood is like total freedom. It's like a balance of like caring about others, but also taking care of yourself, and looking at things from the most profound, I want to say angle, but the most profound, broadest perspective. That's a Buddha, who can, balance everything and see things in a balanced, fair way, the middle way. That's a Buddha, right? Where, like, it's not this, it's not that, it's right there. That's Kozen Rufu. It's like the balance of the extremes. It's not one extreme or the other. It's the balance of all the extremes. It's the most complete, broadest, most profound way of viewing life in every moment. And when you're when a Buddha is in hell, then they balance it out with, the opposite, which I guess a lot of people would say that, I don't know, they call it heaven? I know there was a word that we used in the 90s, when you're just so joyful and happy, like, I know, like you win the lottery. That's like the exact opposite of hell, right? But see, there's a higher world than that, because you're not balanced. That's like one extreme, and then there's the other. And I think they call it heaven or rapture, right? I believe that's heaven, right? Am I wrong? There's humanity too. I believe heaven is the rapture, right? I believe so. We'll go over the 10 worlds in another time. But yeah, Buddhahood is above that, because that's just one extreme, But see, bodhisattvahood, you cannot become a Buddha without first becoming a bodhisattva. There is only one path to Buddhahood, and it is through bodhisattvahood. That's why they call Nichiren Daishonin, a bodhisattva, the leader of the bodhisattvas of the earth. They call us all bodhisattvas because you can't be a Buddha without first becoming a bodhisattva. That's the key to Buddhahood. And a lot of people do not understand that. Even if they're taught it, they understand it intellectually, but they don't truly understand it with their whole life. People who are stuck in learning and realization, and a lot of people get stuck and they think they're Buddhas and they're not. And this is the story that's told in the Lotus Sutra, the ceremony in the air. They have all these like scholars and sages who think they know it all. And it's the same today. I mean, we are the ceremony in the air today with all these people who, all these scholars and all these sages and all these leaders in the organization, all these priests who think they know it all and they don't know anything. So learning is about, it's a scholar. That's a scholar, somebody who studies and reads and thinks, and realizes, there's learning and realization. The realization is when you learn something and then you have ideas and realizations from what you learn and understand. And it's all about you. It's you with a book. And, we're studying right now. But I'm trying to share and help people understand things from my perspective. And so that's not exactly we are kind of dabbling in a few worlds here. I'm reading this and I'm remembering things from my past and I'm getting sad and I'm crying, right? Different emotions, different worlds, but we're bringing it all together, so that we can all become more enlightened than we were before I live streamed this, right? So these people in learning and realizations, it's really important. I love to study. I love it. But if you can't take when you study, you have realizations, you have ideas. But if you don't take those ideas and those realizations and share them with others, or put them in motion to help others, what's the point? If you're just on a mountaintop chanting and thinking you're elite and above humanity and everybody should serve you like some priest or something in a monastery, what is that? That's not Buddhahood. That is not bodhisattvahood. And that's why Mother Teresa went to the streets and nursed these children back to life, and some of them died in her arms, and she didn't care if she was going to get sick from them. She didn't care what disease they would give her. She just didn't care. She just put them ahead of herself. That is, if you don't have that kind of heart, it takes a heart to operate like that. If you don't have that heart, you're not going to become a Buddha. Until you grow a little more of a heart. I'm not saying that it's impossible. Okay, let's take a serial killer like my father, Dennis Wayne Elliott. When he was a young man, he was out to prove himself. He had this huge ego. All young men do. It's part of testosterone on the brain. Okay, they're out to prove something. They want to be bigger and better than every other. Like my father, he wanted to do things that be the first in history to do certain things, and it was all about him when he was a young man. And he uprooted our family to go to the East Coast and start a new life so he could go to Harvard Business School. He went to Stanford. He used Sylvania to get his degree at Stanford, his master's in engineering. And then he uprooted our family so he could go to Harvard Business School. And then he got his MBA at Harvard. And then we were always moving. People always asked me if I was with if my father was in the military. No, my father just keeps getting promoted. Finally, when I was in the middle of, and we always moved in the middle of my my grade in school. I mean, we moved. I was late for kindergarten in Lexington, Massachusetts when we moved cross country from California. I was late. I don't know. I forget how late. It was like I was like a week late for kindergarten. And then we moved from Lexington to Old Greenwich in the middle of my first grade year. Like they didn't wait. My parents never, they couldn't wait until my school year was done. It was always, well, my brother wasn't even in school yet. He was a few years younger than me. And, it was always in the middle of my school year. So, middle of first grade, we moved to Old Greenwich, Connecticut. And then in the middle of fifth grade, we moved to Princeton, New Jersey. It was always all about my parents. It was never, you know, but as my father got older, my parents got divorced. I guess the divorce finally went through when I was 19 years old. But they had separated when I was a kid, and they got back together. But they did ultimately get divorced. It was right after my grandmother's death that my father left my mother for the last time. And I was 16 at the time, and so I guess it was 3 years before their divorce was finally final. And then he eventually, met a young woman who was just, I was 17, she was 23. She started dating, she worked at where my father worked. He was vice president of finance at RCA American Communications in Princeton, New Jersey. And she worked in the HR department and was looking for a husband and had her eye on my father. And my father was dating someone else, an older woman back then. And I guess when this woman dumped him, he was really heartbroken. And so he decided to go out with the young 23-year-old, giving him the eye in the office, I guess. And they started dating. She came over. I remember the first time she came over to our house. I was living with my father. My brother was living with my mother. And yeah, I'll never forget that. She was wearing a little flowered dress and her glasses. And I was with my friend Susan in the car backing out. And yeah, she was only 6 years older than me. And we were friends at that time, because she was trying to get with my dad. Anyway, he eventually, I mean, I kept asking if they were going to get married, over the years. And I don't know. I guess my father just kept putting it off. And then finally she gave him the ultimatum. I guess, he had to marry her before she turned 30, or I guess that was it. And he didn't want to lose her. And so he married her. And of course, she's a young woman. She got married, they got married when she was 29, just a week before her birthday or something. I mean, my father just barely made the deadline. And, you know, I found their will when I was visiting them once, and basically it said that, Mark and my brother Mark and I would just get leftovers. Their kids would get everything, and whatever they haven't named in the will, Mark and I would just get whatever wasn't named in the will, whatever was left over. We wouldn't get anything, basically, is what it said. And I remember being so devastated when I saw this. I was like, what? And basically, this is what she wanted for her family. She kept, I eventually we had a conversation about it. And you know she said that her children would not have their father for very long compared to Mark and me, and that because he was gonna be an older father and they wouldn't have him for as many years, that was the least he should do for them. And anyway, it was, I just she just didn't understand who she married. And I didn't have a father when I was a kid. Okay. My father was obsessed with his career. He was obsessed with being like the greatest serial killer that ever was. And, my stepmother, she's my stepmother today. She just lost her husband, my father, in 2020. They had 3 kids. They're all adults now. And, they have a great life. I mean, they lived in a wonderful house. All three of these kids have their college degrees. They were on time. They didn't wait. They didn't travel, nothing. They just went straight from high school, went to college, got their degree. All three of them. I don't have my college degree, and I'm almost 59 years old, and I'm the firstborn, but they all have their college degrees. And she inherited everything. It's so funny. It's irrelevant today because I removed my family from my life. Of course, I didn't expect him to name me, give me anything. It was just when he first married her, it was just such a shock, and my own brother didn't believe me when I tried to tell him. But I guess he might believe it now, right? Because Inez, my stepmother, got everything. Like the will that came out to be was everything went to Inez, the mother of those children. And of course she, distributes whatever. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, there was a contract though, and there was money that didn't belong to my father that has been put in my accounts wherever they are. I have no access to those accounts. I don't even have one penny of the money I was born into. But yeah, thank goodness there was that contract put in place when I was a baby because, I got something for all my trouble, for all the torture that my father put me through. The point is, I didn't have a father. Okay. Those kids did. They got the best of my father. My father, as he grew older, and, he always chanted secretly. And as he chanted more and more, he changed, he shifted. Whenever he'd see me, though, I mean, the last time I saw him, it was 1998. That was the last time I saw my mother, too. That was a long time ago. She recently died as well in 2022. I didn't even find out that my father died. Nobody told me. I had to stumble upon his online obituary in 2022. So in my mind, he died in 2022, even though he'd really died in 2020 on Michael Jackson's birthday, August 29th. And that's when my mother-in-law died in 2023. I mean, these are the people that have died in our lives. It's just unbelievable, all the numbers of people that have died. But anyway, I'm going through all of this because to explain that I didn't have a father. I mean, I had daddy, the other guy, right? The good daddy. I always called my father Denny. His name is Dennis Wayne Elliott, right? Or was. Yeah, I won't even get into why I called him Denny, but I always called him Denny. I didn't call dad. There was daddy and there was Denny. And but he is my genetic father. Dennis Wayne Elliott is my genetic father. I have more than one genetic father. I know that sounds really odd. I won't get into it right now, but just trust me. This is why I'm top secret, okay? Because I'm a whole huge can of worms. To declassify me opens up a huge, gigantic can of worms. A drum of worms. I don't know what you want to say. I'm a to declassify me is a big deal, and that's why I'm still waiting to be declassified. My classification, I'm top secret. It expired on July 23rd of this year, and I'm still waiting to be declassified. I'm thinking they're going to wait till after the election. Oh, I'm so upset about that because it involves the election. It involves Donald Trump, and don't ask me how, but it does. So I'm going to have to wait till after the election. I'm so upset about that. But okay, so getting back to the point, I didn't have a father. Okay, I never had a father. My father never treated me like a father. And that's the point. Those kids that he had with my stepmother, they got a father. Okay. And that's when I lost my father. When he married my stepmother, everything changed. And he was never in my life the same way again. And that she did me a favor because, I needed to have a separation from him and my whole family. I needed that. He had violated me so horribly that was a good thing. But I just want everyone to understand that you know, I never had a father. And, I had a monster. I had I had two monsters for parents, okay? I just want that understood. And, maybe the other kids, they had a father. I mean, maybe it wasn't 100% of the time. I'm sure, I'm almost positive there was abuse in that family as well. Not by my stepmother. I do not believe my stepmother is did anything wrong. I mean, other than be a control freak. I think she might have been abused as well, and not really know what happened to her because he might have drugged her with date rape drugs like he did me and my mother, and I won't get into it. But yeah, I guarantee it wasn't perfect in that family. I mean, it couldn't be with him as their father, but they got more of a father than I ever did. And that's the point. Even devils can become enlightened. I'm not saying he ever became a perfect person, but he died at age 79. Him at age 79 versus him at, I mean, he was 24 when I was born. Night and day. He developed a heart. He had remorse in old age. He felt bad for me. I mean, that's the same guy who tortured me as a young man, who killed me a number of times, okay? Who loved to see me cry and took pictures of me and put the and there are pictures of me crying during the wedding Sarah, in the wedding photos that of my stepmother and my my father. And I'm sure my stepmother says, see, she always says that, oh, see, she didn't want me to marry her father. She had a problem when I married her father. I don't know. She says all this stuff, and she'll point to the wedding pictures as proof, right? No. I was humiliated. Okay. I was trying to bring my cousin and my Uncle Norm into the photo, or no, Uncle Norm was in the photo. And I felt bad for my little cousin, Colin, sitting in, being left out. And I wanted him to come into the photo, but they weren't my wedding photos. And I had no right to feel bad for Colin and who was left out. He was like the only one left out or something like that. And I felt bad. I'm like, come on, get into the picture. I didn't realize I was violating the rule of conduct at a wedding. I was the daughter of the groom. I was the daughter. I thought we were a family. I felt bad for little Colin, okay? And my father barked at me, yelled at me, and humiliated me in front of everyone, the photographer, everyone. And I felt so humiliated. And those are my tears in that photo. I'm crying because my father had just humiliated me in front of everyone. That's why I'm crying in their wedding photos, not because I'm upset that my father's marrying Inez. I was just humiliated. And my father loved doing that. He loved that I was crying in their wedding photos. He took pictures of me when I was crying. He loved I have such an ugly face when I cry. It's all blotchy and red. And he just loved, he was a sick man. Okay. And he had many personalities. I'm not saying that he could be a gentle man. He had different personalities. And as he got older, it was the more gentler part of him that became his main. I would think, I guess I could say that was the personality that dominated as he got older. When he was young, it was that he took drugs when he was young, and he was so vicious when he was young. He was a monster. I'll just leave it at that. And so, Inez's children got a father. I had a monster. And yeah, when I was living with him, when she came into our lives, like I said, I was 17, she was 23. I was in denial. I didn't have any memory of any of this stuff. And, you know, my father and I got along on the surface, and that's what she saw. And I don't know what she thought of me at that time, but we were friends at that time. And I don't know, maybe she thought I had a good, I don't know. I didn't though. I was struggling a lot when I was that age. I left home at 18 and I never went back. Yes, I visited my father. Yes, I visited my mother and my brother, but I never ever went back. So I don't know why my stepmother thinks that I wanted to destroy her marriage. I mean, other than telling her the truth about my father being the Zodiac killer. I mean, I know she doesn't like that truth. I mean, but she was a young girl. She could have I guess she didn't have very many options. And my old 40-year-old, 41-year-old father was all she had. I don't know. But when you marry a man who has been married and has children, there's a history there. And, to just throw away the previous children because they don't fit into the picture. I mean, my brother was not thrown away. He was the one that rejected Inez when I was best friends with her. And then later in life, he's become her best buddy. And I'm the outcast. I mean, my brother was not the outcast. He just made her the outcast because he was defending my mother when he was a teenager, and then he and I don't know, it's not an exact reverse of roles, but you get what I'm saying. It's just, anyway, just, I hope that makes sense. And I think I need to make it part of the public record to go into that, but let's move on. I want to finish this particular article and then we will conclude. Okay, so, all right, so we're right here. Being one in mind means that even though personalities and characteristics differ, there is unity based on fighting toward a common goal and faith grounded in the shared commitment of mentor and disciple. Right. And that's in your heart. It's not like acting the same, and it's not a cultural thing. It's deeper than that. It's a deep spiritual thing. Okay, it's not superficial. It's in the heart. It's like a commitment in your heart to achieving Kozen Rufu on earth. Okay, and that means standing up for what's right. That means speaking the truth, not going with the not going, not trying to establish superficial unity so you fit in and nobody thinks you're a troublemaker. I mean, that's the Japanese mind, like, oh, don't be a troublemaker. You got to fit in, or you're opposed to Kozen Rufu. No, that's very superficial understanding of Kozen Rufu. Kozen Rufu is deeper than that. We have to be courageous to achieve Kozen Rufu. We have to dig deep to achieve Kozen Rufu. We have to speak the truth. And we can't be afraid of what that truth is or who it involves, even if it's President Ikeda, even if it's, I don't know, Jose Toda, whatever, we got to speak the truth because the truth is what Kozen Rufu is. You can't have Kozen Rufu without the truth. Okay, let's be clear. Okay. For us, I'm right here. For us, as practitioners of Nichiren Buddhism, it means cherishing in our hearts the vow for Kozen Rufu. Yes, not the vow to fit in, the vow to be cool and be in the clique of leadership and go to leaders meetings and pretend that we care about Kozen Rufu. It means being willing to give up our lives, literally, for the sake of the truth of Kozen Rufu, for the sake of Kozen Rufu, which is the truth. That's what Kozen Rufu is. World peace it means the truth is disseminated throughout the world. It doesn't mean the lies are disseminated. That's not world peace. The truth is world peace. Okay? Do I make myself clear? All right. Okay, I'm right here. Explaining that devilish functions divide and obstruct unity. Mr. Harada said, faith and daimoku based on a shared commitment is the only way to defeat devilish functions. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Daimoku. Okay, what is daimoku? Again, another Japanese term that doesn't mean anything in English. What it means is, I guess it's the English pronunciation of a Japanese term, right? They say daimoku, right? Daimoku. That's what it sounds like in Japanese, I think. I don't speak Japanese anymore. I lost my ability to speak when they took daddy out of my life at age 5. Almost, yeah, I was almost 6 when daddy was removed from my life permanently. But I still spoke it. I spoke it. People have told me over the years that I speak it in my sleep. I have not spoken Japanese in my sleep for a very long time, according to my husband. I mean, he's never heard me speak Japanese in my sleep, but other people have in the past. So it's the foundation of all my English. So, I mean, I still got it. There's just a brick wall in front of it because of all the torture and abuse I was subjected to. And, my father, Dennis Wayne Elliott, learned Japanese as a young man. He didn't speak native Japanese. He spoke with an American accent. But he learned it before I was ever born, and that was our secret language when he was the Zodiac Killer. We would talk. My mother didn't know that he spoke Japanese. She didn't know I was speaking in Japanese when I was speaking all the time. She thought I was speaking gibberish. That's what my father would call it, gibberish. It was Japanese. Anyway, okay. So, what were we saying? Boy, another typo here. Boy. No hyphen there. I don't even know where we were. We weren't there. Were we? Let's see. Oh, devilish functions. Okay. So daimoku. It means chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant again and again, like in repetition, right? That's daimoku. All right. And yeah, based on shared commitment, the only way is the only way. Yeah. What he's basically saying is you can't defeat devilish functions unless you chant, right? I mean, you have that unity that we're talking about, and you have to chant. Well, I don't chant, so I don't know. Maybe he thinks I can't defeat devilish functions. I feel like I can, but there is an elevated way of, I'm surrounded by devilish functions all the time, and I have to transform that. I have to rise above it all the time, and I don't chant anymore. But I highly recommend that everybody chant. I'm the only one who can't. That's all. I don't think there's any other more powerful way to defeat the devilish functions than chanting. I can't chant though, so I have to, overcome the devilish functions in other ways. And, I have to transform my life and my environment all the time. I'm always being challenged and again, and it's just the reality I face. And I don't have the daimoku to use for that purpose. I don't know what I do. I'm always meditating. I'm always in a meditative state, and I'm always rising again. I don't know how else to explain it. Okay, but yes, I do think that chanting is the most effective and direct path to overcoming any devilish function in your life. I agree. All right, so here we are. Okay, so sensei, they're referring to Daisaku Ikeda. Sensei, and by the way, sensei means master, right? Like sensei, you've heard of Karate Kid and movies like that. And anybody who studies martial arts or does the martial arts, practices martial arts, whatever, they use the word sensei. So I'm sure you probably understand what that word means. It just means like teacher, mentor. The old term is master, but it's not a really good translation. It really is mentor, teacher. Okay, so sensei, and they're talking about Daisaku Ikeda, reiterates this point in his lecture on the heritage of the ultimate law of life. The spirit of many in body, but one in mind, in a sense, represents the ultimate manifestation of the strategy of the Lotus Sutra, which is chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant to the Gohanzan, the scroll that Nichiren Buddhists chant to, which actually embodies enlightenment, okay, that you fuse with it and you open up that world of enlightenment, literally, even if it's just a piece of paper on the surface. It's more than that to Nichiren Buddhists, okay? Specifically chanting with a shared commitment for Kozen Rufu. I mean, that commitment is in your heart. It's not faked. It's not intellectual. It's in your heart. It's like your heart burning for Kozen Rufu, for world peace, for peace on earth and goodwill to all. I mean, burning for it. You have to have a heart to really care about that. And that's, it's not an intellectual commitment. Yes, the intellectual part of you is involved, but it comes from your heart, that kind of commitment. Okay. So here we are. No plans or strategies for Kozen Rufu. Again, no hyphen. They keep leaving the hyphen out, and they left it out here. They left it out here. I don't know. Maybe it's just this digital version of the publication that's doing this. No plans or strategies for Kozen Rufu will succeed without shared commitment in chanting. Okay. Strong practice based on such unity will also give rise to tremendous momentum. So even should there appear individuals who seek to disrupt the unity of our movement, their negative influence will be rebuffed by everyone's focused spirit. Okay. Unity, very key. And I hope he's not referring to me. I don't know. Maybe some people think that he is. I don't know. I don't chant. Okay. And I'm not trying to disrupt this is my, what is it? Movement. It's my movement. I mean, I want this more than anything, you know. Okay, so let's continue. One in mind, quote unquote, or shared commitment also refers to the great vow for Kozen Rufu, the great vow of the Buddha who seeks to lead all people to enlightenment, not just a select few. And also the great vow of the mentor. One in mind means making this great vow our own and working toward its actualization. The essence of this shared commitment can be found in chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, inspired by the wish for Kozen Rufu. And this unity and chanting pulses vitally in the Soko Gakkai. Yes, it is a pulse. It is like a heartbeat. I used to love to chant and be part of that heartbeat and produce that heartbeat. And I just used to love it so much. I'm so addicted to it. And I'm like a a former addict of chanting. Yeah, I was addicted to chanting. I mean, I didn't always, I always chanted. Well, it was on again, off again, because it did cause a lot of disruption in my life. It did. Like I said, it negates me. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand what was going on when I was chanting. I would chant like for like a whole day, like a whole 8-hour tozo, 10-hour tozo. I used to love 10-hour tozos. And then I wouldn't chant for a while, I hated reciting the sutra. That was my issue. I'm not a routine kind of person. I like to go with the flow. And I was addicted to chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant. Reciting portions of the sutra was just so, I don't know, it didn't seem like I didn't see the point of it. And it's supposed to focus the words, focus the chanting that you do. And I agree that it does, but the whole point is to chant those words, and that's what you should be doing the most of, not, I know people who, like I remember David Wayne Craig, my ex-boyfriend, he he would he would never miss a gongyo. It's kind of like my grandma Flanagan, never miss a gongyo. Um, and he would chant for 5 minutes, and but he would do his gongyo every morning, every evening, chant 5 minutes. I mean, yes, when he needed to chant because he had, he wanted to accomplish something. Yes, he would chant for extended periods. He wouldn't chant all day. He would chant for an hour. The typical amount would be a half hour. Sometimes longer, but most of the time, like he would just, all his time would be reciting the sutra, which is, gongyo. They call it gongyo, portions of the sutra, and then 5 minutes of daimoku, which is, chanting those words that Nichiren Buddhists chant. And that was it. His focus was on gongyo, or portions of the sutra, which is the reverse of what it should be, in my opinion. And the whole point is to chant. And really, it doesn't have to be a formality. And I mean, you can chant anywhere. And he chanted everywhere. He just chanted when he wanted to do something. He didn't, I mean, I guess sometimes he would chant more if he was on it was always because he had a goal, and he would chant more to achieve that goal. Okay, I'm going to chant an hour a day for the next week or something. But typically it was just 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, or something like that. And the whole focus was gongyo, which was portions of the sutra to support. But that's only a supplementary practice. It's not meant to be the main practice. And I just felt like he had it in reverse. I hope I influenced him. I think I did, because my focus was always on just chanting. But chanting wasn't good for me, and I could only take so much of it, and then I would have to stop, and then I'd feel bad that I stopped. But it was because it was bad for me, unlike it is for everybody else. Okay, so please investigate. Go to SGI-USA, SGI-USA.org. I guess it's .com too. There's SGI.org, and there is Buddhability.com, and I guess that covers it all. All right. Okay, here we are. We're right here. When the hearts of individuals become one with their mentor's heart, when the hearts of individuals become one with their mentor's heart to achieve Kozen Rufu, the heritage of faith taught by Nichiren Daishonin can be transmitted to every person, as well as throughout every corner of our organization, naturally giving rise to the unity of many in body and one. Many in body, one in mind, Sensei explains. Okay, let me just see how much longer this is. Okay, we're getting there. I do want to finish. Okay, so here we are. Buddhism is a teaching conveyed through the mentor-disciple relationship. The oneness or shared commitment of mentor and disciple forms the essence of Buddhist practice. If we forget the mentor-disciple, there's not a space there. If we forget the mentor-disciple relationship, we cannot attain Buddhahood. If we forget. Yeah, I would agree with that. I just caution everyone to not make the mentor some god or somebody like that. I think we can be creative, and remember, the mentor disciple relationship is in the heart, and it doesn't matter. It's a deep spiritual bond, and it doesn't matter where you are, whether you're in the organization, outside of it. It doesn't matter. It transcends all divisions and all order. That's how deep and profound that bond is, and I just want to emphasize that, because I feel like in the SGI, and not even to mention Nichiren and Shoshu, it seems like people interpret it so superficially, like, oh, you have to do things the way everybody else does it in the organization. You have to be a member. Oh, what is it? I think of onshitsu. That's like slandering people. I think of what is it? What is the Japanese term for going? What is it? When you leave the organization or you stop chanting. I'm forgetting the term. It's a Japanese term, and everybody who doesn't know these terms, they show that they're not in the organization, and they're little like click terms that reveal whether somebody is practicing with the organization or not. Titan, is that right? If they go Titan, that means they've stopped chanting. It's just a very superficial way of interpreting what the Buddha taught and what President Ikeda taught. It's not superficial. You can be in the middle of the desert and never see anyone again, and have that profound bond with your mentor. They don't have to be physically right in front of you. They don't have to be in the same organization as you. You can have that deep, profound bond with them, wherever they are in the universe. It doesn't matter. And for people to imply, oh, you stopped chanting, oh, you're not part of the organization, oh, that means you don't have that bond. No, that is not true. It's just, that is a very superficial understanding of the mentor-disciple relationship. That's all I want to say on that for right now. Okay, let me get some water. I'm getting a little dry in my throat. All right. Where are we? Okay, so the oneness, I'm right here. The oneness or shared commitment of mentor and disciple forms the essence of Buddhist practice. If we forget the mentor-disciple relationship, right, it is a bond, and it's never ending. So yeah, I mean, if you are detached from that bond, if you don't have that bond, if that bond is broken, yeah, there's not that continuity that is what Nichiren Buddhism is all about. It's true. I just feel like people might misunderstand it and interpret it superficially. If we forget the mentor-disciple relationship, we cannot attain Buddhahood, nor can we achieve eternal happiness or realize Kozen Rufu. It is through the bond of mentor and disciple that the law is transmitted. Buddhism is the law of life, and the law of life cannot be transmitted through words or concepts alone. I agree with that. But I just don't agree with people who insinuate that you like only people who are practicing with the Sokugakai and are in a district and are leaders, or at least in unity with leaders, unless they do that, they don't have that bond. Those are superficial things. They have nothing to do with the deep, profound spiritual bond that is the bond between mentor and disciple. Just saying. Okay. I'm right here. The heritage of the ultimate law of life and death flows in the lives of those who strive for Kozen Rufu based on the path of mentor and disciple. Please remember that without the mentor-disciple relationship, the flow of this heritage will be cut off. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Nichiren and Shoshu, lost that bond. I mean, they never had it. Let's be honest. And look at them. Okay. The lifespan chapter embodies life's most fundamental wisdom. That's the chapter of one of the key, like I told you about Gongyo, reciting portions of the Lotus Sutra. The lifespan chapter is one of those chapters that Nichiren Buddhists recite to focus their chanting, the words they chant. They're key portions of the Lotus Sutra that are the key points that the Buddha taught in this teaching. And that's one of the chapters. Okay, right here. In his August 2022 headquarters leaders meeting message, Sensei wrote that the record of orally transmitted teachings, there is a gap there, which elucidates the heart of the Lotus Sutra and the essence of Nichiren Buddhism, is a compilation of teachings that illuminates life with the light of the most fundamental wisdom. Such a beautiful way of putting it. Yeah. Soon after, Sensei's lectures on the key passages of the record of the orally transmitted teachings began publication in the November 2022 issue of the Dai Byakurenge, the Sokogaku's monthly study magazine. Mr. Harada, let me just Okay. Mr. Harada underscored the significance of these lectures on the record of the orally transmitted teachings, stating that Sensei put his entire being into them right up to his very last days. At the conference, I believe that Mr. Harada presented on parts 1 and 2 of Sensei's lectures on the lifespan of the Thus Come One chapter, published in the July and August 2024 issues of Living Buddhism. Part 1 focuses on sowing seeds of Buddhahood, and Part 2 on joy in both life and death. You might feel a deep sense of familiarity with the lifespan chapter, Mr. Harada said, pointing to the fact that we recite portions from the lifespan chapter every morning and evening during Gongyo. And I explained Gongyo to you, I think, right? Portions of the Lotus Sutra that Nichiren Buddhists recite to empower their chanting, to focus their chanting. Okay. He shared 3 key points of this chapter of the Lotus Sutra outlined by Sensei. 1, Shakyamuni, that's Shakyamuni Buddha, the first Buddha in recorded history, some 2,500 or so years ago. Shakyamuni did not attain enlightenment in this, and he was in India. Maybe Nepal, I don't know. Okay. Shakyamuni did not attain enlightenment in this lifetime under the Bodhi tree. He attained enlightenment in the remote past. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, from the remote past to the eternal future, the Buddha preaches the law in this Saha world. That means like this really bogus, defiled world we live in. And it's more defiled now than it's ever been before. Okay, it's the latter day of the law. And, there's a reason why those Christians call themselves their church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's a reason, because they chant too, by the way. Okay. All right. So, Saha world, the latter day of the law, the most defiled time in human history. And Nichiren Daishonin, the guy that everybody attributes to being alive in the 1200s that founded this religion, Nichiren Buddhism, he what did I want to say about him? I don't remember what I wanted to say about him, but the Buddha. I don't know what I wanted to say. I apologize. But let's go back. I want to get this done. Number 2, from the remote past to the eternal future, the Buddha preaches the law in the Saha world and continues to fight for the happiness of all people. 3, the eternal Buddha undergoes birth and death as an ordinary human being. This is called appearing to enter nirvana as an expedient means. So expedient means, that's the other chapter. There's another chapter called expedient means, I believe. Or is, yeah, I believe it is. The other chapter is called expedient means, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But yeah, so the eternal Buddha, right, she comes to earth and is born a human being, and appearing to enter nirvana as expedient means. Okay, so it's easier for the Buddha to just blend in and appear to be an ordinary human being, which the Buddha is, by the way. I mean, the Buddha is not God. I mean, we won't get into that discussion right now. The Buddha is a regular human being. Okay, let's not forget this. I mean, he's not, yes, he or she is advanced in their comprehension and understanding of life, and but he or she is just a human being. Let's be clear. Okay. So right. So basically, the first historical Buddha did not first attain enlightenment under the Bodhi tree in India, or some people say Nepal. No, he attained enlightenment long before, in the beginningless past. And he had a teacher who taught him what he knew. And that's who Nichiren Daishonin is presented as being, the reincarnation of that teacher, who is the leader of the bodhisattvas of the earth. Okay, just that's the backstory. Okay. All right. The time after the Buddha's passing is the Buddhism of sowing. Only the 5 characters of the Daimoku, the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, and they're listed right here without hyphens, I don't know why, constitute the Buddhism of sowing that is suitable for the present time. Thus, the Buddhism of the harvest is for the time when the Buddha was in the world, and the Buddhism of sowing is for the time after his passing. Okay, I think that's clear. Hence, it is the Buddhism of sowing that is needed in the latter day of the law. In his first lecture on the lifespan chapter titled Sowing the Seeds of Buddhahood, the sacred work of the Buddha to bring happiness to all people, Sensei confirms how crucial the Buddhism of sowing is in the latter day of the law. So that's when the Buddha has passed away and is no longer with us. And so I apparently, my father, Daisaku Ikeda, Sensei, that's who they refer to as Sensei here, confirms how crucial the Buddhism of sowing when the Buddha is not with us. And I guess they're kind of indicating that Daisaku Ikeda is no longer with us. And he's saying that Sensei confirms how crucial the Buddhism of sowing is in the latter day of the law. Mr. Harada confirmed the 3 stages of spreading Buddhism: sowing, maturing, and harvesting. Sowing refers to planting seeds. It entails planting the seeds or sharing the essential law for attaining Buddhahood and helping people believe in this law. Maturing relates to making steady efforts to nurture the seeds we have planted. Harvesting refers to reaping a crop. It means enabling people to liberate themselves from suffering and attain enlightenment. Mr. Harada explained that the Buddhism of harvest was appropriate for Shakyamuni's time because people back then had received the seed of Buddhahood in past lifetimes, with that seed maturing over lifetimes of practice, enabling them to liberate themselves and attain enlightenment. So it was it was a more enlightened time, and people had more of a connection to Nichiren Buddhism, or, the Buddhism of Shakyamuni's period. Okay. In the latter day of the law, however, after the Buddha's passing, which is right now, people have lost their connection to Buddhism, and very few are seeking it. It's true. Furthermore, the power and effectiveness of Shakyamuni's Buddhism has waned. Yes, very true. Therefore, what is needed now is the teaching of sowing, of planting the seed of Buddhahood and helping people make connections to Buddhism. Right. Even if it's a negative connection, just presenting it. And okay, you hate me for presenting it. Okay, fine. That's a connection. You've given that person a connection to Buddhahood. It doesn't matter whether it's negative or if it's positive. It's better than no connection at all. Because one day that seed will blossom and grow, and, one day, we don't know when. It just depends on the conditions. It depends on that person's karma. It depends on a lot of things. Okay. All right, here we are. The core message of the Lotus Sutra is that Buddhahood is an inherent potential in each person's life. However, a connection or spark is needed to call forth that Buddha nature. The mission of the Bodhisattvas of the earth is to take action to help people form those connections. Okay, so that's, as Nichiren Buddhists, that's what I know. I include myself because I know I don't chant, but my life is Nichiren Buddhism, even if I can't chant the words to the Gohanzon. I'm still I still consider myself to be a Nichiren Buddhism, even if my practice resembles more that of a meditator or Christian or somebody like that. And, there's more connections to Christianity than Nichiren Buddhists would like to admit. Okay. All right. So, right. So it's a little simpler today. We just want there to be a connection, right? It's the Buddhism of sowing. We're not harvesting, we're not growing. I mean, there might be some people who are growing, and there might be some people we are harvesting, but they're very few and far between. This is basically the time period that we're planting seeds so that one day people will grow and realize the truth and join our movement one day. Maybe not in our lifetimes, maybe in this lifetime. It just depends on so many different factors. Okay. Nichiren, I think we're right here, right? Right. Nichiren Daishonin revealed the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant. And these words are the heart and essence of the Lotus Sutra. In fact, the words are actually, okay, Nam is put in front of them. Nam is a term of endearment. It is devotion. It means devotion too. And the other words, and I could probably say them as long as I don't chant with the Nam in front. They're the title of the Lotus Sutra. This is the way it's explained, and this is the official story. The other words, the other syllables of the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, and you can read them right here after the N-A-M. Okay, this is the title right here. These three words is the title of the Lotus Sutra, translated from Sanskrit to Chinese and transliterated into Japanese. Now, that's the official story. I know that's not true, but that's the official story. It is an ancient language that predates Chinese and predates Sanskrit. So, there's no language on earth that this language has never been on earth. It predates this planet. That is what I was taught. So, just want you to be aware. But so these words are the heart and essence of the Lotus Sutra, besides being the title of the Lotus Sutra, by the way, in this ancient language. Nam being a term of endearment. So when you chant the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, you're actually declaring your devotion to that teaching. Literally, you are. And each of those words also mean other things as well that are very profound. But that's just pointing out that it is also the title of the Lotus Sutra. So when you're declaring your devotion to it, you're declaring your devotion to the Lotus Sutra. So, and those words are the heart and essence of the Lotus Sutra. Just like when you say my name Claire, you mean me. All right. In this latter day, that's what it says. Okay, so the shortcut to enlightenment in this latter day is just to chant those words instead of like going through a whole lecture and discussion like I am. Just chant the words and you'll understand. That's the shortcut. That's the shortcut, the most direct path in existence. That really just sums it up. Okay. So Mr. Harada affirmed that it looks like Nami. I don't know. They got to get these hyphens straight in the digital publications here. Okay, so he affirmed that the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant is the teaching to be spread in this age. It's like the medicine to hand out. You got to hand out all the medicine. It's the only thing. It's everybody's so sick in this defiled age. I mean, the medicine of the words that Nichiren Buddhist chant is like the only way that people can wake up and think clearly. So he affirmed that these words that Nichiren Buddhists chant is the teaching to be spread in this age, and the people who will spread the law after the Buddhist's passing are all of us, the bodhisattvas of the earth. I mentioned the bodhisattvas of the earth earlier. Sensei, in his lecture, offers 3 points regarding the significance of our Buddhist dialogues to plant seeds of Buddhahood. First, sowing the seeds of... Okay, there's some word missing in this sentence. First, sowing the seeds of Buddhism, of the Lotus Sutra, or of sowing the seeds of enlightenment, maybe, is a way to create connections. It is the sacred task of bringing people in touch with the mystic law and opening the way to happiness for all, not just a few select, all. Okay. Second, sowing the seeds of Buddhahood means not discriminating. That's right. That's right. So don't discriminate against me. It is a noble undertaking to bridge divisions and bring people together. It is the polar opposite of any tendency to discriminate against or denigrate others. I agree. And I see discrimination and denigration in the SGI. Don't even mention Nichiren and Shoshu. I mean, they were once one organization, so of course they're going to have similar tendencies. I mean, Nichiren and Shoshu was way extreme, but the residue still lives in the SGI. Now, I admit I have not been around the organization for a long time. So, I hope it's gotten better, but I can tell from reading, I don't know. I don't think it has changed all that much. Maybe it's gotten a little better. I hope so. I hope so. Okay. So I'm right here. The Buddha's all embracing. The Buddha's all embracing compassion. That is a very good way of putting it. All embracing. Don't leave anyone out, right? Free of discrimination, vanquishes the ignorance of humanity that causes division. Yeah, it's not about division. And they even have divisions. The young women's division, the young men's division, the women's division, the men's division. Isn't that funny? They use that word in the organization, in the SGI organization, and we're not supposed to have any divisions, right? I mean, they're just always, that's the Japanese tendency. They just want to organize everything. You're a girl, so you go over here. You're a boy, you go over here. All the old girls go here, all the old boys go here, and the boys are always in, they're always the leader, and and the women are always the submissive. And this is the Japanese order of things. It's not a reflection of Nichiren Buddhism, as is clear from what Mr. Harada is teaching, and he sounds pretty wise, I admit. Not the kind of Japanese man I'm talking about. He sounds pretty darn wise. Okay, I am losing my voice, so we gotta finish this. The Buddha's, okay, I already read that. Okay, here we are. Third, sowing seeds of Buddhahood means having faith. It is the admirable cause of promoting a way of life based on respect for others. That's right. We don't know when the needs we have sown in people's lives will sprout and blossom, but we respect the Buddha nature in each person and pray, wait for, and believe that these seeds will flower. That is beautiful. Yes. Joy can be experienced in both life and death. Shakyamuni Buddha, as I've stated, guy in India, first Buddha in recorded history. Nichiren Daishonin, he's the guy that came along and declared the truth in Japan about 750 or so years ago. And second Soka Gakkai President Josei Toda, my daddy, grappled with how to view life and death, a vital issue for most religions. Shakyamuni sought to liberate people from the four sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death, concluding that without resolving these problems, we cannot achieve true happiness. The Daishonin expressed his view in, quote, the importance of the moment of death, unquote, writing, quote, I should first of all learn about death and then about other things, unquote. Writings of Nichiren Daishonin, Volume 2, page 759. And Mr. Toda declared, the final question Buddhism must settle is death. And that's August 2024, Living Buddhism, page 52. Sensei, in his September 1993 lecture at Harvard University, emphasized that correctly positioning death within the larger context of life is the greatest challenge of the 21st century. The core of his Harvard lecture lies in the well-known expression, quote, joy in both life and death, unquote. His main point was that through chanting the words that all Nichiren Buddhists chant, or at least most of them, ordinary people who uphold the mystic law can experience joy in both life and death. I agree. Mr. Harada said that sufferings of birth and death are inescapable realities of life. He emphasized that a Buddha is a person who bravely fights to overcome the varied sufferings and problems amid harsh realities, citing these words from Sensei. The Buddha's all-embracing compassion, free of discrimination, vanquishes the ignorance of humanity that causes division. Yes. The Buddha, as taught in the Lifespan chapter, is one who manifests great compassion and, over repeated phases of life and death, leads living beings to enlightenment in this Saha world. In the same way, we Sokogakai members, while grappling with our own problems here in the reality of the threefold world, go out among threefold, that's past, present, future. Go out among those racked by the sufferings of birth, aging, sickness, and death. With prayers of compassion and empathy, we act for our own and others' happiness and for peace and harmony in society. As envoys, quote, envoys of the thus come one, unquote, we carry out, quote, thus come one's work, unquote. See the Lotus Sutra and its opening and closing sutras, page 200. Undertaking the same actions as the Buddha to guide people to enlightenment. That's August 2024, Living Buddhism, pages 55 to 56. Nichiren Buddhism views life and death as two aspects of the eternal nature of existence, two sides of the same coin. President Toda likened life to the universe, saying that upon death, our lives merge with the universe. Yes, but not not in the literal way that Nichiren Buddhists tend to think of death. But yes, in the same way that the universe has no beginning or end, our lives have no beginning or end. We are not reborn or reincarnated, but rather our lives continue in different forms from this existence to the next. Yes. Yes. Nichiren says the aspect or characteristics of the threefold world are birth, aging, sickness, and death. But if we look at birth and death in terms of their true nature, then there is no birth or death. And if there is no birth or death, then there is no ebb or flow. Not only do birth and death not exist, to look on birth and death with repulsion and try to escape from them is termed delusion, or a viewpoint of acquired enlightenment. Seeing and understanding the originally inherent nature of birth and death is termed awakening or original enlightenment. Now, when Nichiren and his followers chant the words that most Nichiren Buddhists chant, they realize the originally inherent nature of birth and death and the originally inherent nature of ebb and flow. Sensei says that when we base ourselves on this perspective of life and death, there is no need to abhor or fear death. That is true. He writes that by chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, we can gain deep conviction in the eternity of our lives and, quote, bring forth the power to live this life in the most meaningful and fulfilling way, unquote. August 2024, Living Buddhism, page 57. When we base ourselves on the great law of the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, we can, quote, acquire an eternally indescribable life state that is not swayed by the sufferings associated with the realities of life and death, Mr. Unquote, Mr. Harada explained. He then relayed the story of a woman's division member who Sensei introduced in one of his essays. 30 years ago, she discovered that she had cancer. Assailed by worry and anguish about the thought of dying, she hoped that her diagnosis was not real. In reality, she was quickly moving toward death. Even so, while she intellectually understood that Daimoku was the only way, and that's chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant again and again was the only way to overcome her suffering. She felt helpless. It was in her hopelessness that she received a poem from Sensei that read, "Confidently live out your life and triumph over all, laughing off the devil of illness to become a queen of longevity." The Wisdom for Creating Happiness and Peace, Part 1, Revised Edition, page 272. Shortly after, Sensei sent her 2 more messages telling her not to worry or be intimidated by illness and to remain positive no matter what, keeping in mind that from the standpoint of the eternity of life, we are Buddhas in life and death. Yes. Gaining conviction through her mentor's words, she devoted herself to chanting Daimoku each day, chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant. While her fear of dying had not disappeared, she said she could now survey her illness and death from above, and through chanting developed optimism, knowing that death would come as a matter of course. 30 years have passed since her diagnosis, and she has recovered remarkably, continuing to do SGI activities in high spirits and encourage others with her experience. While many members have triumphed over illness, Mr. Harada shared, there are also many who have overcome the devil of illness but have still passed away. Sensei also writes, because life and death are originally inherent, we have no reason to fear death and can savor joy in both life and death and be equally happy and at ease with both. Life and death is a part of life. It is not separate from life. It is part of life. And even though we're not here on earth, we are somewhere else. We do not cease to exist. We just are not on earth at the time of our after our death. That's all. Okay. Of course, as mortal human beings, the idea of death can make us feel sad and forlorn. When a loved one dies, waves of grief assail us. But if we steadily continue chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, we can transcend the bounds of life and death and converse with our loved ones. Mm-hmm. Fellow members will also chant for us and support us in our loss. In time, we will come to find the profound meaning of our loved one's death and feel a sense of hope for renewal. That's August 2024, Living Buddhism, page 58. The fact that we can find profound meaning in a loved one's passing through our Buddhist practice reflects the profundity of Nichiren Buddhism's perspective on life and death. Nichiren teaches that life is a short rest before beginning a new journey for Kozen Rufu. I agree. Throughout eternity, we will be constantly reborn in company with, unquote, our teacher, carrying out bodhisattva practice. The key to revealing our Buddhahood and experiencing abiding joy in life and in death is chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, sharing Buddhism, and applying Buddhist study to our daily lives. Let's stand together with our mentor to transform the destiny of humankind. Quote, if we steadily continue chanting the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant, we can transcend the bounds of life and death and converse with our loved ones. In time, we will come to find the profound meaning of our loved one's death and feel a sense of hope for renewal. You can, I think chanting assists one in going to the deepest depths of understanding that, yes. But I don't think that's the only way. I don't think somebody has to chant to feel that the depth of their connection to a loved one even after they have died. I know that there are other ways of it transcends even the words that Nichiren Buddhists chant. I guess it's even deeper than that. Okay. Mr. Harada reminded, I'm right here. Mr. Harada reminded the participants that they had studied the Lotus Sutra passage, though, quote, those persons who had heard the law dwelled here and there in various Buddha lands, constantly reborn in company with their teachers, unquote. That's from The Heritage of the Ultimate Law of Life, Writings of Nichiren Daishonin, Volume 1, page 217. Quote, as mentor and disciples of the mystic law, we will live together eternally, carrying out our bodhisattva practice, he said. There is no journey of life that is more sublime than this. He then encouraged everyone to put into practice what they learned over the weekend and bring it back to their local organizations, adding, precisely because we live in a time of many crises that are threatening the dignity of life, as people who possess Buddhism's eternal perspective on life and the nature of life and death, let's stand up together with our eternal mentor, Ikeda Sensei, to do our human revolution and transform the karma of humankind. I have a renewed sense of mission and purpose, said Sidem Adiabu, a young women's division leader from Alexandria, Virginia. I am here because of Sensei. I want to impart that spirit to my fellow youth and show them why it's important to have a mentor. Yeah, President Ikeda is my mentor too, and both our mentor, his mentor, and my mentor is and was Jose Toto, and we have an unshakable, indestructible bond that will live throughout eternity. I hope you found it at least a little interesting what I had to offer. I know I am a blast from the past who has something to say that you've never heard before. And that is my mission, to present a side of Buddhism that you've never heard before. I'm not here to be like Ikeda Sensei. No one could ever replace him. And I think that he is the perfect mentor for everyone in the SGI and beyond. And I'm just a different kind of mentor, a radically different kind of mentor altogether. And I hope there's a place for me somewhere, because I've never been allowed to take my place on the world stage ever. And it would be great to find a little corner somewhere where I can be me. Thank you for listening. Let me get back to my other screen so I can see what's going on over here. I hope you could see me well enough. I tried to stay. I see if I go this way. So I was kind of behind here, wasn't I? I thought you were able to see me better when I went like this. But anyway, I hope this worked out. Thank you for watching. I have a membership. I mean, it's not like SGI or anything like that. It's just my own little membership, and you can get merch, and I'm going to be adding to all the things you're going to be getting in my membership. I haven't even I've just scratched the surface, but you can get merch. You can get extra videos that I make just for you. But yeah, there's going to be other things. There's going to be lots of other things. I'm still deciding all I'm going to be doing. So, okay. And let me just see. These are ways that you can support the channel. I I would love it if you would love to support me in any way, shape, or form. Haven't gotten much of that. So there you go. Okay, I hope you can see. I hope I leave it on the screen long enough. I guess you can rewind. You can go back and look at it. I didn't have it on the screen. I haven't had it on the screen very much. But if you go to my link tree, you can see all this stuff there. All right. Well, thanks so much for watching. Just trying to get used to all this. And I look forward to making more of these. Hopefully, I don't know. I think it was pretty long today. I don't want it to be that long. I mean, I guess live streams are kind of long by nature, but yeah, I had a lot to say today, but maybe we'll just be reading through things, and I won't. The commentary won't be as extensive all the time. All right. Well, thanks for watching. I'm gonna give you my outro now. Okay. Here's the outro. Have a good one. Oh, and check out my book at Amazon. He Did Not Do It. Ron Goldman's Top Secret Widow finally sets the record straight. Look up Claire Elliott, 2 L's, 2 T's. You have the spelling right here. Put it into Amazon. You'll see my book. And I'm in the process of creating an AI short film about my father, the Zodiac. I think I'm going to call it The Zodiac Killer's Daughter. I have a channel by that name too that I started, but I really feel like The Truth Heals is a better focus, and that's why I've switched everything over here. Anyway, thank you again, and hold on for my outro.